Hey guys, I just want to let you know we charge a standard fee here for all the reviews we do. It helps us keep the site going, but I want to be honest with you. These aren't meant to be endorsements. Let's get into it. Hey guys, we're in Fullerton, California today. We're checking out the Giant Explorer E+4 GTS. This is a 2020 model, and I got it from Fullerton Bicycles just down the street. They had a bunch of these. So they had like a 2019, and I was able to compare it back to back, and very similar. I like how they have the same sort of battery design where it sort of tips out to the side, and they were able to squeeze in some bottle cage bosses here. They had one that had a sort of a lower mid-step top tube design, a little bit more approachable. High step's gonna keep that frame tight and stiff, fairly lightweight. This is 49 pounds, and this is the size medium frame. They do have 4 frame sizes. It's fairly value priced at $2,500 for a 2020 model. I mean, we're still in 2019 right now when I'm reviewing this, so to me, it's kind of neat to see them, you know, pushing out the latest and greatest. This bike is going to be excellent for just sort of all-around use. Light trail, maybe kind of cross-country riding. It's got those studded tires, but fairly close and small knobs, so they aren't going to buzz quite as much, and they might not be as slippery if you're on maybe wet concrete like this. They are 700C, so roughly 29-inch wheels by 45. So they're good balance between comfort, capable off-road, but still efficient, and that larger diameter gives you a lower attack angle, so it creates a little bit of comfort when you're going over cracks or rocks and things. 60 millimeters of travel on this spring suspension fork, and I like that it is RST, but they took the branding and everything off, so it just ties into this satin black frame with some nice blue accents. We've got rear rack bosses. We've got fender bosses here. You can see there's one right there. I already mentioned the bottle cage bosses. There's some extra threaded eyelets below those seat stays, which could be used for like a cafe lock that goes through the rear wheel and secures the bike for short periods if you're just dashing into the cafe. And they've even got kickstand provisions right here. Those are pretty standard, so you could add a kickstand. It doesn't come with them stock. You know, again, that's kind of a mountain bike thing. A lot of the high-end Giant mountain bikes, they're just not set up with pedals or with a kickstand, but it's nice that you've got that option. You don't have to get kind of a cheaper Amazon one that just like bolts onto the frame. You can actually, you know, screw it directly in. That's going to be a little bit more secure. Quick release front and rear, standard 9mm axles. The quick release gear comes right out. It's going to make it easier to do maintenance or to toss this in your car. You know, you can remove about 7.7 pounds by taking that battery pack off, and we come back to that 49 pounds. So to me, this is a really well-balanced bike. It's got the weight low in center. It ties in really nicely. It looks a lot more like a bicycle. It doesn't scream like electric bike. And that's one of the things that has been improved for 2020. You can see this nice rubberized, really kind of intuitive when you reach over and you feel that. There's a nice texture to it. It's very easy to understand. We've got 5 dots here on the right, and that indicates your charge level, and then 5 dots here on the left, and that indicates your assist level. And then in the middle, there's another dot, which is lights, which there are no lights wired into this bike. It doesn't come with lights, but that's kind of cool. I mean, they're starting to use this button pad for more of their bikes, and this does swivel up and down, but it's not removable, and I do feel like it would hold up well to intense sunlight, rain, that kind of thing. It just feels like it's really sealed. I didn't see a charging port on it, so it would be nice if it had like a micro USB port and you could tap into the battery capacity. This is not the highest capacity battery I've seen. It's 36 volts, 11.3 amp hours for roughly 400 watt hours of juice, and it's got a little charge level indicator built onto the outside, so you could charge it on or off the frame. And if we come over to this other side, you can see the charging port is right here. This nice rubber cover and a really big plug, fairly proprietary, so hopefully it won't get mixed up with other electronic devices, but it is right there near the left crank arm. So when we pedal back, see, it crosses pretty close. So if we had a wire running to that, it could get tripped over a little bit more. And again, without a kickstand, the bike feels a little bit precarious to me at times. This is the charger. I like what they've chosen here. It's another fairly proprietary design. It's Giant branded, 3 amps versus 2 amps on most other chargers I see. Weighs about 2 pounds though, so it's fairly compact. You can unplug the wall side. To me, this is better than some of the other Yamaha chargers I've seen that are really long and even heavier, but you still get that high speed charging. So for me, that's a win. Giant is using the Yamaha system here. This is the PW motor. They actually, I think it's a ST for 2020. They rebrand it down here. You can see Sync Drive Sport, and they have a Sync Drive Pro, which I've covered on the Trance, and that motor is a little bit lighter, about 6.6 pounds. This one's like about a pound more, I think it's like 7.5, somewhere around there. So it's a little bit heavier, Q factor's a little bit wider, and this has square tapered spindles versus ISIS splined. So I think another thing that's different about this is there are 2 catch points inside and there aren't as many teeth. It's just not quite as high performance. It weighs a little bit more, Q factor's wider, the volume's a little bit bigger, but this is still very quiet, very efficient motor, and Yamaha's known for reliability, and they've just been improving it year over year. We've got this plastic shield down here with maybe some vents and stuff. Could let water out and lets air get in there. 42 tooth chain ring with a nice aluminum alloy guard that's gonna keep the teeth from getting bent if you do encounter a log or something on one of those adventures on your way home from work. Standard 170 millimeter forged aluminum alloy crank arms. If we take it to the back, we've got a little clear sticker slap guard. Try to keep the frame looking nice. It's not gonna chip up the paint and stuff if you are bouncing around. 9 speeds. It's a pretty good drive system here, or I should say drivetrain. Shimano Deore. I noticed it does not have the clutch, the one-way clutch, but Deore is several steps up. It's a nice, it's a nicer component group. So anyway, coming back to the nice black matching paint, even black stanchions, although I think these are steel, that's not anodized aluminum. So keep that in mind. Tapered head tube though. So you could upgrade this to like an air fork or something in the future if you wanted to. And that's a nice, you know, lighten up the bike a little bit, kind of keep this thing living and maybe take it on some more aggressive trails, which is really good. 30.9 millimeters on that seat post, and it's 375 millimeters long. I was really impressed with that. So that might be dependent on frame size. You know, that sometimes the handlebars are a little bit longer, seat post is a little bit longer, those kinds of things. And then of course, we have hydraulic disc brakes, 2 finger levers with adjustable reach, 180 millimeter front. These are Tektro, 160 in the rear. So a lot of your stopping power does happen in the front when your weight shifts forwards as you slow the bike down. I definitely appreciate that they're hydraulic and not mechanical. That's part of what you're paying for, a little bit higher price point. And then also the comprehensive warranty, 2 years, dealer support, that kind of thing. You're paying a little bit more, but Giant is one of the big 3, so it's Trek, Giant, and Specialized. They make their own handlebar, stem, rims, and I noticed the rear rim, it's got those reinforcement eyelets, nice black spokes. I think this is 32 hole and 28 up front, so fewer spokes, lightweight, high performance. And they can do that when it's higher quality. So wanted to point that out. And then these Giant branded, pretty long, large ergonomic grips. They feel really good. They are locking as well, so they're not going to spin on you if you really bear down. And while we're looking down from this point, check it out. We've got some extra spacers, and this is like, I don't know if it's a 3-degree or 5-degree stem. You could flip that, you could raise it, lower it. There's a little bit of adjustability. And then down here, we don't have lockout, but we do have preload adjust on that suspension fork. So you can preload that spring and tighten it up if you're a heavier rider, or like me, I'm pretty lightweight. I like to loosen it up and really get that soft compression. But we don't have actual compression lockout. We don't have rebound adjust like you would have with an air fork. And then back down here we have some more eyelets for maybe supporting that fender like we talked about earlier. So for me, this is like an all-around do anything bike. In a lot of cases, I myself have found I only have like the budget and the space for one bike, and this is like a do everything, and it's from a company that I trust with high-end stuff. And one of the call-outs I want to make is, you know, with the Sync Drive here, this is the Sport. With the Pro, they say it maxes out at 360% output, whereas this one's 350, and it's a little heavier and whatnot, but 80 newton meters of torque is what they claim, and it's a pretty advanced system. You can see back here there's a little sensor and a magnet that passes it. Okay, so it's measuring your rear wheel speed, pedal cadence, and pedal torque, and it's very responsive. It does not have shift detection, which is something that Bosch has sort of come out with and promoted, and I have noticed it works okay. It's not perfect. So in this case, it's really up to you as the rider to ease off a little bit when you're shifting gears. Try not to shift too many too quickly. in a high level of assist with all that power, because 80 Newton meters of torque is quite powerful. When we come up to these trigger shifters here, we have a 1 unidirectional high and then a multi-shift 1, 2, 3 low, so you can dump a bunch of gears. This is actually my personal preference, but I'm kind of an advanced rider, and I know how to use the electric bike system where you like and then just keep moving those cranks, but I'm not actually pushing anymore, and the power eases back, and then I shift gears and they shift really smoothly. I'm not going to bang up the cassette or the chain, not going to drop the chain. So those are just some of my thoughts. I noticed that there was some really nice internal routing on the cables, and it's pretty clean up here, right? There's just that one extra cable. They route through the frame. There is a smartphone app that Giant has that allows you to do some route planning or some optimization of their drive system, so you can kind of tweak the responsiveness. That's really cool. A lot of the companies are going to that, and you can put your phone right here and use it for navigation. Again, it would have been nice if you could plug in and take advantage of that e-bike battery. But, you know, all things considered, being able to remove that battery pretty easily, which I did want to show you. I'm just going to come over here. Got the keys. I'm going to turn the bike off here. There we go. Insert the key. Do that, and it doesn't spring back. So that's kind of nice in this case, because I want to be careful. The bike's just kind of balancing. See how the battery comes right out just like that. So it's really nice to be able to reduce that weight, and storing this in like a cool dry location. Extreme heat can be hard on these. The cells aren't going to last for as many full cycles. Extreme cold, it's not as hard on them from what I understand, but it is going to limit your range that day, right? So cold doesn't damage them quite as much, but you might only get half the range. I would expect at least 25 miles, and that's with a 170-pound rider, even in the highest level of assist, but kind of on flat terrain. That's like your lowest range estimate, all the way up to 55 plus miles, depending on how you're using it, because it is pedal assist only. This is a class 1 electric bike, 20 mile per hour top speed. So I'm just gonna hop on now and do a little ride test with you. Okay, I was able to double check, and it is 11 to 36 in the rear, 42 teeth up front. I'm going to start out without any assist, and I wanted to show you walk mode. I'm wondering if it's actually going to work without assist on. Yeah, I guess in order to get walk mode, you have to be at least in level 1, press it, and the bike pretty quickly takes off. That's a nice feature if you do get a flat tire, or maybe you add that rack, or you're riding somewhere where it's not appropriate to be on a bicycle, or it's just too steep or too tight and you feel more comfortable walking. I like that they included that, and then it's not really getting in the way. It's just a little button right there at the bottom. The speed does seem to change depending on what gear you're using, so if you feel like walk mode is too fast, change the gears. And then let's see here. I'm actually going to pedal along without any assist at first. Just ride this like a bicycle, just to get a feel for it. Go. It's feeling pretty good. You know, these e-bikes, the e-bike systems tend to weigh 20 pounds, depends on the battery size. The bike really feels like a normal bike, just as though maybe I was wearing a heavy backpack or something, like a little bit of extra weight. On flat ground like this, it's very efficient, it's pretty quiet. There's a little bit of noise there with the motor, I guess just cycling through. This is supposed to freewheel. It's not supposed to create any drag, but just listening to it, it does seem like there is some drag. There's something going on there, and that might be the case with most mid-drive systems. They are internally geared, and that's designed to give you some power, but you know, without adding a ton of weight. So this is pretty standard, kind of what I would expect for this generation of e-bikes. Now I'm going to take it up to, let's just do the first level of assist. Now you can see that chainring kind of spinning on its own even after I stop pedaling. So there's a little bit of delay, but it kicks on very quickly. And because it's a multi-sensor, it does seem to, it feels very satisfying, right? It doesn't feel like it's on or off. It feels fluid, and the harder I push, the more power I get. Now I'm gonna go up to the highest level of assist, switch into a higher gear, and I'm not gonna push really hard. So see, the motor isn't actually clicking on because I'm not pushing real hard. And now once I do start pushing, it really kicks in. So this bike is very fast, efficient, smooth. I like it a lot. This is my type of bike. It's got the suspension, it kind of takes the edge off when you're going over bumpy terrain, going off curbs and stuff. Yeah, it's a very quiet bike, and with those disc brakes, there's a lot going on here. I'm just trying to keep my eye out, and I can handle it all, even with one hand, because of that extra large 180 millimeter front rotor. The other thing I was trying to figure out here is the maximum RPM support. So that's pedal cadence. 120 RPM is pretty good, and that's what the Pro motor does. I think somewhere on the Yamaha website it says this one only supports 100, but maybe Giant's got it to 120, so let's check it. Yeah, I would say this feels like 120, maybe even a little bit above that. It does feel like they've optimized it a little bit. Maybe that's a characteristic of the new like ST PW series. I can't really say for sure. They didn't go into too much detail on the Giant website. All I know is that it's a little bit more volume. The interface, the square tapered versus ISIS spline, not quite as nice. A little bit more weight on this motor compared to the Pro, but you know, you're saving some money. So I think that's kind of it, you guys. It's really cool to get to check out one of these Explorer models. It's neat that Giant has a whole line above them, different colors, different trim levels, really. Very versatile platform. I definitely appreciate Giant as a company. I welcome your feedback if you've had experience with any of their earlier generation bikes. It does seem like they've improved some things, specifically like the battery interface being a little bit quieter when you're on bumpier terrain. There are some adjustments in there. It's supposed to let you tighten that up. But again, my time with these is sometimes limited, so I look to you for any feedback and welcome your comments. I've got all the specs that I measured back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Love you guys. Ride safe. We'll see you next time.